What is up, guys? Wrestling Premiere is here. The best rendition of brand supremacy, right? Definitely for me. For one, the guys had too much pride in losing and being seen as the second best brand. Also, this version of SmackDown vs. Raw actually had ramifications for the losing team, which I'll get into. The original video wasn't as good as I intended it to be, so here's the remake. I didn't go into detail as much as I should have in the past, and plus, there was too much footage in there, so hopefully this version delivers. And I think it delivered, honestly. I think it's way better, miles better than the other video. That's what I think. Yes, this feud, I just love it. Like, you just go in and you watch, you see these brawls unfold, this chaos and whatnot. And it was the first of its kind until WWE decided 11 years later to do it every single year. Survivor Series, next one, oh, we hate each other, blah, blah, blah. The guys get drafted like about a week earlier or something, and all of a sudden they're brawling with the other guys. Like, weren't you just friends with them like a month earlier? Come on. They're talking about brand loyalty or whatnot. There was actually something that happened after this, so yeah. Enough of the talk. Right now, let's get into it. As you guys may already know, SmackDown and Raw already had a disdain for each other ever since 2002. Didn't matter if it was the GM or the stars themselves, they always saw the other brand as the enemy. Funny enough, the previous encounters between the brands weren't as intense as 2005's. So for me to cover this one, we gotta go back to the September 26, 2005 episode of Raw. On that night, Mr. McMahon made a rare appearance to promote the upcoming Homecoming show. Later in the night, Teddy Long decided to make an abrupt appearance also, which greatly offended Eric Bischoff. Now, the reason why he was here was because he wanted to do business with Raw. He wanted SmackDown to get some exposure on Homecoming. Bischoff was very insistent on not having SmackDown. Well, all of a sudden, Vince enters the room and he loves the idea. He saw it as a tremendous opportunity and basically forced Eric to accept the idea. Man, it seemed like his idea all along, and I know I said that word a little too much. McMahon was very excited for SmackDown's match at Homecoming, and it was on. So all Teddy Long had to do was make the match. Later that week on SmackDown, he did just that. He said that the participants in the match were going to be JBL, Eddie Guerrero, Christian, Rey Mysterio, the U.S. champion Chris Benoit, and the world heavyweight champion Batista. Vince knew that Teddy had something up his sleeve, but what I find funny about this was the fact that the match itself was a secret. I mean, Teddy Long isn't exactly known for six-pack challenges, right? At Homecoming, Eric Bischoff was complaining about SmackDown's influence on the show. First of all, the Ortons from SmackDown assaulted Raw's guests, Mick Foley and Roddy Piper, and Bischoff was paranoid over what might transpire later in the night. About an hour later, it was time for SmackDown to shine. Teddy Long was so damn ecstatic over being on Raw again, and you could see him here, like, look how happy he is. And as for the match, well, for one, this was going to be Rey Mysterio's first ever match on the show, and honestly, back then, it felt out of place to see someone like Rey or JBL on the show. Benoit, Batista, and Christian were back, and Eddie, it was his first appearance on Raw since the 04 draft. So they're all ready to have the match when petty Eric decides to put the kibosh on the whole damn thing. He thought the audience shouldn't suffer through some lackluster second-rate performance, and so turned the lights off, making them look like a bunch of jabronis. After the commercial break, Mean Gene Okerlund standing in the middle of the ring about to interview Hulk Hogan. It was clear that this offended Teddy Long and SmackDown, and at the end of the night, he came out and told Bischoff that he's embarrassed them and made his brand look like fools. In his eyes, Eric wanted to do it gangsta style. This escalated into a 2-on-20 handicap brawl, but then the troops ran out there and made the save to end Raw in a wild fight. That wasn't even it. After the show, Raw ended up winning the battle, they reclaimed their turf, and SmackDown had this expression like, it ain't over yet. At the end of the day, despite a lot of those stars hating each other's guts, they still got over their issues to overpower SmackDown. On this incident, Teddy Long quickly responded on Friday night. He said that Bischoff will try to get revenge on the biggest stage possible, so if you Raw guys want to come to No Mercy and start something, SmackDown will finish it. Randy Orton didn't like what Teddy had to say and held himself responsible for interrupting Raw. Theodore Long refused to leave, but the network exec, whole other story, obliged. Now, the match Bischoff refused to allow actually went down at the end of the night, and meanwhile, JBL actually had some stern words for any Raw visitors. He called them the B team and refused to back down if they actually appeared. They did not appear despite the invitation. The whole thing seemed like it fizzled away, as on that week there wasn't a single mention about the whole beef. Carlito and others did criticize Edge for not joining Raw in the battle. Other than that, nothing. But on the October 17, 2005 episode of Raw, things picked up very quickly. During Edge's Taboo Tuesday qualifying match, he experienced a little dose of SmackDown. As Edge was looking to steal the victory, JBL's music played, Edge got distracted and ended up losing the match. Since he was notorious for being a whiner, he barged into Eric Bischoff's office, and he was also annoyed by this, but was unsure of what to do. In the end, he placed the blame on Edge, who called out JBL on WWE.com Unlimited and asked him, "What are you gonna do to put an end to this?" Edge indicated an appearance on SmackDown, asking Bischoff to tune in on Friday night. Now, just to clarify, a couple of things did happen on WWE.com. Problem is, I can't find any of these old interviews or backstage segments at all. There's just some minor stuff there, you know, like HBK versus Kurt Angle continues or whatever, like just the extra stuff. Teddy Long on SmackDown was well aware of what went on Raw and got some extra security. JBL, on the other hand, denied having anything to do with the entrance music thing and was annoyed. He mentioned how the crowd went wild at the possibility of seeing him, and to be honest, they actually did stand up when hearing his music. That's one thing to know. His focus was on Rey Mysterio, but if Edge actually does come, he's welcome to appear and get his ass beat. During that match between Rey and Bradshaw, Edge from out of nowhere emerged and speared Rey himself. He trolled him with the whole music thing and, like a coward or opportunist, capitalized on the moment. JBL noticed Mr. Money in the Bank. He just had this look of violation on his face, like you violated the rules. He chased him down, and in the ring, Chris Masters comes in and locks Rey in the Master Lock. He demolished a couple of lower card stars that tried to make the save, and that's when Hardcore Holly came in. I don't need to tell you why he ran away. Rey Mysterio was seething about the spear and demanded Teddy Long find a way to get him Edge. JBL, though, was pretty impatient and quickly tried to make an impact by visiting the Red Brand in Fresno. He wasn't allowed to enter the arena, and in the ring, Edge and Chris Masters made fun of him, and most importantly, SmackDown. Edge claimed he didn't spear JBL because no one cares about him. Rey Mysterio is an even bigger star than him, and more important, hence the spear. He revealed that there's going to be a SmackDown vs. Raw match at Taboo Tuesday, and Masters, on the other hand, took jabs at the Blue Brand, saying that nobody knows or even cares about them. They looked at the choices for the tag match, SmackDown versus Raw. Matt Hardy, he was kicked off Raw. Even if he wins the vote, he'll still lose. Rey Mysterio, short ride home from the hospital because the event is in San Diego. Lita thought Rey was the inspiration for SmackDown's new junior, or in her words, midget division. Christian, Edge had a lot to say about him. He was carried for the first 6 years of his career, and he even congratulated Christian for being the only person that's going to get less votes than Matt Hardy. Hardcore Holly, Masters thought he was an absolute joke, and he said that Holly's got bleached blonde hair, wears spandex, and calls himself hardcore. In Masters' eyes, it seemed like Bob wants him in the shower rather than the ring. And lastly, JBL. Edge called him Mr. SmackDown, but compared that to a sinking ship. Basically, there's no value in being the face or leader of the Blue Brand in his eyes. Bradshaw had enough and insulted Masters' speaking skills. He knew that Mr. Money in the Bank wasn't willing to come to the parking lot, but preferred if Monkey Boy comes to the parking lot himself and tries to give him a Master Lock, why don't you pick on someone your own size? Edge's closing statement, doesn't matter whoever the fans vote for, JBL's irrelevant, blah blah blah. And his response, there's nobody that hasn't slept with that used merchandise he calls a girlfriend. Man, why do you have to come at Lita like that? Like, come on. What did she do to you? He told Chris that he's fallen for the oldest trick in the book before departing in his limo. In the arena, Rey Mysterio from out of nowhere drop kicks Edge and 619's Lita before running off into the crowd. You'd expect some retaliation from the Raw guys on SmackDown that week, right? Problem was the fact that they were touring Australia, and so they had to wait till Taboo Tuesday. On the final Raw before the pay-per-view, though, Eric Bischoff decided to invite Rey Mysterio to try and break the Master Lock hold. His logic was that if SmackDown wants to prove its dominance, one of the stars from the brand should break the hold, I guess. That's what I saw it as. Chris was as arrogant as ever and told Rey that he's got to be at least this tall. Oh man, the disrespect there. Rey didn't have much to say and so whacked him with a microphone. The Masterpiece couldn't get any offense in until the Raw guys came out, but luckily the SmackDown guys were there also and cleared house. Theodore Long promised to embarrass Raw on their own turf tomorrow night, and Bischoff was very angry about this. He refused to accept anything other than a victory at Taboo Tuesday. I mean, they just took over his own damn ring. The next night at the pay-per-view, Matt Hardy and Rey Mysterio ended up winning the vote. As expected, the match itself wasn't bad, but one thing to note is that Edge actually refused to wrestle. He cites having nothing to gain from beating Matt Hardy again. Beating Rey Mysterio means nothing also, and he straight up admitted that he doesn't care about Raw or whatever the fans wanted or voted for. But there is one thing he cares about, and no, it wasn't Lita, shocking to me, it was himself. He ended up getting Snitsky as the replacement. The match saw Raw look like second-rate talent, even though they had the advantage during a large portion of the match. That alone couldn't get them the W, and I love how Joey Styles before the match explained how Rey had the upper hand due to sleeping in his own bed. I like those kayfabe explanations. They're just a minor touch there. They're not that much of a big deal, but it's just something I appreciate. Now, why didn't Edge compete? He had an injury. I'm not sure if it was a groin injury. There's a correction. And he wouldn't return to in-ring competition until like January of 2006. That's why he wasn't in this match. Eric Bischoff was frustrated over this on the phone when Boss Man paid him a little visit. He said that the match that he couldn't wait for was the SmackDown vs. Raw match. Why is that? Well, he ran late and was eager to watch it. But Bischoff admitted that it had already went down, and this angered Vince. Why? Well, he saw this as a disappointment to Raw and Eric himself. He didn't know what happened to the guy that nearly ran him out of business. Eric, asked if he's gonna do anything about this, to which he responded stating that he's tired of changing his damn diapers, and even asked him, like, where's the creativity? He wished him good luck on that Batista and Coach thing, and I should know, I have something lined up about that whole JR story. About a quarter of that video script is done, so expect it in the near future. Since Eric Bischoff was upstaged on his own home turf, he wanted to meet up with Theodore Long to offer a little proposition. Bischoff didn't really want to stay in this godforsaken land and wanted to quickly get things over with. The Raw GM believed that this whole brand warfare thing had gotten out of control, and he did praise Teddy for bringing the fight to Raw comparing it to when he brought the fight to the WWF back then. Theodore Long didn't know what he's talking about, because he's just rambling on about how this has to end, blah, blah, blah. And Bischoff quickly made the challenge. 5 of his best superstars against Teddy Long's best superstars in a 10-man Survivor Series match. Before leaving, Bischoff straight up told Teddy that he's the B Show, and his reaction is as if you told him that there shouldn't be any tag matches on SmackDown. Eric wasn't done though. He called it a second-rate show, second-rate talent, and second-rate audience. This got a lot of boos. Teddy accepted the challenge and compared it to the Monday Night Wars. Bischoff lost. That wasn't it though. The SmackDown GM wanted to have an interpromotional match, not between 2 superstars, but between themselves. He ended up accepting, but then Teddy Long ended up kicking Eric Bischoff right out of the ring. Also, wouldn't Teddy make a great boxing coach? Seeing as Survivor Series was on the horizon, Eric Bischoff lined up every Raw star barring Angle, Cena, Triple H, and Ric Flair. The reason why everyone was out here was because they can be potential candidates for Survivor Series. He gave Kane and the Big Show the first 2 spots in the Survivor Series match. Shawn Michaels ended up being captain. The final 2, well, it could be anyone. Hell, Kerr White could be the one. Carlito was chosen to verbally explain why he should get a spot. He's like, in order to show I'm serious, no more cabanas, I'm the best wrestler on Raw, whatever. And Shelton took offense to this and called himself the most amazing athlete to step into the ring. So, in favor of competition, a match between the 2 was made, with the winner taking the Survivor Series spot. Eric Bischoff began giving other stars matches, and then he attended to a serious matter: Edge and Lita. He reminded everybody in the arena about what Edge said at Taboo Tuesday. Also, I should know that's the best t-shirt in history. As for Edge, since he cares about himself, he wanted to reiterate this message once again, and so Eric made a match between Mr. Money in the Bank and Batista for SmackDown. Not only that, but it was going to be a street fight. The Raw stars and the Raw fans were very satisfied with the match and ended up serenading the 2 with na 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 hey 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 goodbye. Later on, Lita tried one last ditch effort to cancel the match, still wasn't enough. Hell, Bischoff even called her a slut. On SmackDown, Teddy Long also had some qualifying matches for Survivor Series. He motivated the roster to prove Raw wrong in thinking they are the A Show, and he announced Batista has a spot in the match. He's also the captain. Orton took offense for having to qualify, thinking he's good enough, but with the roster motivating him, he decided to go out there and represent, I'm gonna get that spot. His opponent ended up being Rey Mysterio, and funny enough, he actually lost. This was due to his father getting involved, and Orton was fuming about this, and damn Josh, just give him some space. He guaranteed an RKO for Rey, add to that getting his ass beat by Matt afterwards. Yes, he was going to do something about it. Bobby Lashley joined the group after demolishing Orlando Jordan. Eddie Guerrero also, but unfortunately this was his final appearance. It ended in the most Eddie Guerrero way though. JBL joined the team with the help of Booker T after he screwed over Chris Benoit, so the team was assembled. Edge, meanwhile, wasn't keen on a match with Batista, and he used ditching Raw at Taboo Tuesday as an excuse to bail on this match. Teddy didn't mind it, but the decision lied in Batista's hands. Edge wanted Teddy to ask Batista to cancel the thing, but the SmackDown GM refused to do Mr. Money in the Bank's dirty work for him. He was stressed out, but was man enough to try and talk some sense into the animal. Lita, meanwhile, wasn't really safe, and as for Batista, Edge tried to relate to him. We are stars that are too big to get involved in some ego fest between Teddy and Eric Bischoff. Dave liked this, but still refused to cancel the match. His eyes, the fans paid for a street fight, they'll get a street fight. The whole episode was just building up to the moment where Edge was going to get what's coming to him, but beforehand, Eric Bischoff was in the back with Teddy Long, with Chris Masters from out of nowhere locks him in the Master Lock. The commentary team were shouting in disdain. The SmackDown guys tried catching up to him, but they quickly ran away. JBL was gracious enough to lend his limo for the chase. Batista was seething, and Edge brought out the tag champions. The world champion couldn't believe it, and he realized that it was a setup. Taz was cussing. Batista tried putting up a fight, but with those two, it was essentially impossible. The SmackDown roster tried putting in effort too, but every single one of them didn't have a chance. Hell, even Hardcore couldn't do something. I guess the jeans weren't available. It was like the home team getting completely embarrassed. Batista took a chokeslam to end this show. Now, one thing to note is that Dave actually suffered an injury on this night. He had some sort of back tear, I believe, and he was actually going to have an operation, surgery, but backed out, and I'll get into that soon. Unfortunately, during this week, Eddie Guerrero passed away. It was just a huge blow to everybody, and this forced WWE to implement a wellness policy. Second, Eddie was one of the absolute greatest. His plans, as explained by Bruce Pritchard on a couple occasions, altered the course of WrestleMania 22, and it was a very unfortunate loss. As a wrestler, it's an unfortunate loss, and most importantly, as a human being. So that week wasn't about brand supremacy. It was all about honoring a legend, Latino Heat, Eddie Guerrero. You had Shawn and Rey put on a classic. You had Benoit and Triple H put on a clinic. It was just about Eddie Guerrero, that's all. Moving on from that unfortunate week, on the final Raw before Survivor Series, Team Raw and Eric Bischoff came out to discuss Sunday. I honestly don't know when Chris Masters joined the team, but he did. Bischoff heard about some rumors on WWE.com that Teddy Long and SmackDown don't want to wait for Survivor Series, and so they're going to be right here on Raw tonight. Bischoff tried to put that rumor to rest, stating that he didn't see a single SmackDown star around the building. Hell, Todd Grisham's out there to notify him for any invaders. Bischoff thought that SmackDown's too scared of his army, and Big Show heard enough. He said that Kane and himself went to SmackDown not for Eric, but to prove that they are unstoppable monsters, and if Batista gets hurt, too bad. All of a sudden, Todd Grisham notified everyone that SmackDown's here. Batista was impatient and quickly challenged their sorry asses to the parking lot. Eric wanted them to stay in the ring, but Shawn had other ideas. Bischoff knew that it could lead to something bad. Well, what was he going to do? Fire them, suspend them, fine them? After the commercial break, Carlito did have some doubts about this, it could be a trap, a setup, but Shawn didn't care. There they stood face to face, and it was just an awesome visual. Like, for one, most of these guys never faced each other. Second, the star power was there. And third, it was an awesome brawl. Batista ran Big Show's head into a car window. Rights and lefts were flying everywhere. Bodies also. Poor Rey found himself in the master lock. And meanwhile, Big Show and Kane managed to chokeslam Batista once again. Security came out to forcibly separate them. Bobby and Randy had matching shirts. On a serious note though, things for SmackDown were bad. Real bad. Eric Bischoff warned everybody, stating that you don't mess with Raw. You never mess with Eric Bischoff. Later on, JBL interrupted a match between Rob Conway and Tajiri and made his presence felt. He's shouting, "You wanna fight?" And he mentioned how Batista was sent to the hospital because of a bunch of cowards from Raw. Basically, he was calling anybody from the Red brand to come out to the ring. He demanded that one of the guys that started this come down and get their ass kicked by himself. I couldn't imagine a babyface JBL, but this was the closest we've ever gotten to that, and even then the fans booed him. Eric Bischoff took offense to JBL's actions, and since the garbage JBL wasn't thrown out, he will compete in the main event against the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels. This was the first time these two ever faced off. Meanwhile, Trish Stratus was kidnapped in broad light. Eminem were revealed to be the culprits, and this was because Melina wanted a women's championship match. Her request was accepted, but before leaving, she kicked the hell out of Trish Stratus. As for the main event, first of all, Maria was late on the interview. Shawn Michaels didn't really speak about his book. He promoted it, however, and the real reason for the interview was about JBL. He revealed that every participant of the Survivor Series team won't be surrounding the ring as lumberjacks, and he didn't appreciate the fact that JBL came in here and tried to do whatever the hell he wanted like he does on SmackDown. And so, tonight, the SmackDown guys are going to learn what it's like to get Raw. The Raw guys had one of those with the manager SVR entrances, and the SmackDown guys came out with JBL inside his limo. Anyways, the match itself obviously delved into something else, with the Raw guys and SmackDown guys breaking the rules, and it was Orton that actually lit the fire. He's smiling. I assume someone shook his hand. And Michaels had the match, but Randy comes in and RKOs him, and a brawl ensues. There was finisher galore, spear from the Big Show, and once again, things were going to end just like they began, but then unstoppable 05 Batista comes in with a steel pipe and dismantles both men to end Raw on top. There was fallen bodies around the ring, and he was the last man standing. Ironically, there was still one more SmackDown to the Clash at Survivor Series, so anything can happen at this point. During that show, there was an unknown van outside the arena. JBL thought it was Raw, but apparently it was the Boogeyman. Also, there was going to be a no-holds-barred match for the World Heavyweight Championship between Batista and Randy Orton. Eric Bischoff was once again lurking around the arena, letting Teddy know that they're coming. Batista, meanwhile, was confronted by the Legend Killer, and Orton didn't want Dave to use his injury as an excuse after he loses the world title. This is pretty comical to Dave because, well, Orton's saying stuff like, "I'm better than you, Flair, and Triple H," and so he reminded him of Unforgiven 04, where Randy, lost the title, and WrestleMania 21, where Batista, won it. "You lost to Triple H, I beat him, you got kicked out of Evolution, I left." And so Orton was offended. In other places, Carlito and Chris Masters, with about 30 minutes left, had the audacity to attend the show and sit in the front row. A couple of minutes later, Shawn Michaels invades SmackDown and super kicks JBL. The 2-pound security go after him, leaving Rey Mysterio all alone with a masterpiece, and as a result of this invasion, the main event had every single SmackDown superstar surrounding the ring. Now about Batista's injury, from what I could find, apparently this was going to be Randy Orton's night. Dave was going to have surgery, but backed out because he felt SmackDown was relying on him, decided to delay the operation and fight through it. You learn something every day. And this was due to Eddie Guerrero passing. Anyways, the bell rings and everybody outside the ring looks angry. Collar and elbow tie up. Batista struggles, and from out of nowhere, a bunch of Raw stars come out and the match is abandoned. And so another memorable brawl begins. RKO, Sweet Chin Music, 619, Master Lock. Batista was dominant, but unfortunately found himself at the mercy, or lack thereof, of Kane and the Big Show. He fought to the very best of his abilities, but those two were just too much, and they ended up chokeslamming him through the announce table. JBL tried saving him, but failed, and the rest were brawling inside the ring. As for Survivor Series, definitely one of my favorites. You had all these faces coming in and finally clashing. Add to that, a certain dead man was returning, a last man standing match. Yes, one of my favorite Survivor Series events. Before the match, Randy Orton was trying to rally his teammates, making it seem like he was the leader of the team. The moment Dave appeared, JBL changed up on him. He did complain about not being captain, but he ended up being cool with Big Dave. Ray and Bobby were obviously okay with it, and Randy barely agreed with it. As for the other SmackDown vs. Raw matches, Melina put up a good fight, but she just wasn't good enough to win the title. Teddy Long and Eric Bischoff, oh hell no. I don't think anyone wants to see that ever again. Bischoff's choking Teddy 100 times. Another thing to mention is the fact that the WWE title match needed a SmackDown referee to conclude things. This kind of angered the commentary team, you know? Also Kurt Angle. Because Angle was uppercutting, assaulting the Raw refs, and so Cena needed somebody to count the fall, and out came a SmackDown referee. Back to the Bischoff match, he dominated, choking Teddy the entire time, and then Boogeyman made an appearance, and I guess he was Team SmackDown through thick and thin, because Teddy Long ended up winning due to him. Now, before I actually talk about the match itself, there's one thing that really sticks out to me. For good or for bad, the commentary. I swear, you'd think they hated each other legitimately. Probably did. The amount of bickering from a commentary team, I haven't heard anything like it. Maybe Paul and Jay are back in 01. I obviously can't show you much here, but watching the match is one thing that sticks out like a sore thumb. And also on the subject of commentary, I just learned that Cole and Taz had to work shoot on bite this, criticizing Raw in general. This was on the build-up to Survivor Series, so it makes sense I mention it. I really want to see this, but it is nowhere to be found. And what I read about this was the fact that they were frustrated with SmackDown being seen as the B show, and it's a shame that it's nowhere to be found. Like, upload it, please. There was some Bret Hart Ultimate Warrior stuff on there also. That's a whole other story. As for what Taz thought about the bickering, here's what he had to say back in December of 2005. And I quote, "Wasn't like we had anything against them, even though I don't like any of them. It was more or less the right time for us to stand up for SmackDown. Cole and I sat there at Survivor Series and felt like we were a part of a Raw pay-per-view. We called one match, then we sat there for 4 or 5 matches. It was all Raw. It was annoying, so we just sat there and boiled and boiled and boiled. Then when the main event finally came, we exploded. If that was any other situation like John Cena versus Batista in the main event, neither me nor Cole would have done that. Would have never talked that long and been that controversial and that confrontational during that match. It would have taken away from John Cena and Batista, and it would have been disrespectful to the guys in the ring. This was a different situation though. It was a team versus team thing. It was SmackDown versus Raw, not just in the ring, but at the announce table also. And this is a question that he was asked on if the guys in the back got angry about this. And I quote, "I think the office thinks we are assholes, and I think they're not that far off. Make sure you quote me on that. But I do think that the powers that be enjoyed it because it was different and it showed passion on behalf of the SmackDown announce team. And passion is a big thing to the guy that runs this company. So if you're an announcer, I feel that you need to be outspoken and have an opinion. That's what happened at Survivor Series. Cole and Taz have an opinion, and Cole told me to tell you guys that he will not be muzzled no more. He's kind of like Howard Stern when the FCC was against him. Cole's like Stern, but different."
Hey, listen, fuckhead.
Now, I heard that Vince was laughing his ass off about the insults and jabs, and I heard the coach was offended greatly at the fact that nobody came to his defense or something like that. Yeah, Taz especially just had a mean tongue on him. Anyways, the match itself was a classic, definitely top 5 in my favorite Survivor Series elimination matches. Things started off with Orton and HBK. There was a big man battle between Lashley and Masters. Carlito was all talk, and also this was the only time I've ever seen HBK and Lashley go face to face. Bobby and Lashley had his moments, but Raw were all about teamwork, and Bobby ended up getting eliminated. Batista had his moments also. Hell, he even got rid of Kane, but since he was so damn hurt, Big Show took advantage, and he was out. JBL at times fought like his life depended on it. Big Show was throwing Rey around, but the heels on SmackDown quickly found a way to best the Giant. Rey hits 619, Orton rolls in and hits RKO. Still not enough, so JBL hits another one of those clothesline from hell, and that wasn't it, but the seating senton did. After this, the team captain took a fallaway slam on the concrete floor. And this might be funny to you, but from the SmackDown side, JBL is actually my favorite during the match. When I watched it once again for this video, I just thought he was the best guy on the team, or my favorite. He had this intense, aggressive offense to him. It's like he's a soldier. And plus, he even eliminated Carlito. He was a team player. As for Rey, he got rid of Masters, and it was 3-on-1. HBK was the only one remaining for Team Raw. He found himself in a dangerous situation when he ran to the 619, but luckily righted the wrong with a Sweet Chin Music from out of nowhere. JBL comes in, clothesline from hell, nope. Sweet Chin Music, and it's 1-on-1. The Survivor Series goes Orton and Michaels. RKO, nope. Sweet Chin Music, neither. So It was just an exciting matchup at this point. We want Taker a chance to engulf the Joe Louis arena. Michaels found some momentum and hit that elbow. Problem was, he couldn't go for the cover. And as he was tuning up the band, the sweet chin music, JBL comes in with a chair and receives one himself. Orton capitalizes and hits the RKO to win the match for SmackDown. He's a soul survivor once again. The SmackDown guys come in and celebrate with Orton, but then we hear a gong. He realizes what's up, and his facial expressions here tell a whole story, No, it can't be. I mean, I killed him. Oh, no. The Undertaker emerged from the casket, nearly burns himself, runs into the ring, kicks everybody's ass except Matt Hardy, and Regal with that cell. Oh, my God. This thing is a whole other story, but as for the SmackDown vs. Raw thing, Friday night stood tall, and this had huge ramifications on Eric Bischoff's job. That is why I made this video, in order to prepare for the very next one. Overall, this program was pretty entertaining. For one, a lot of the confrontations felt like both sides hated each other. Add to that legitimate feud between both brands, it made for a good story. Also, somebody had to pay for Raw's loss, and it ended up being Eric Bischoff. Rey and Batista did team up to face Big Show and Kane. They faced off at Armageddon, and the SmackDown guys lost. But other than that, the feud was all but over. So yes, the reason why I remade this, well, I thought it was a good idea. And second, I want to do that Bischoff video, the trial of Eric Bischoff. It was a very memorable episode to me. It's the very next video, hopefully. So yeah, what do you guys think of the SmackDown vs. Raw feud? Please comment down below. And that's it for this video. Make sure you hit a sweet chin music on the like button and press the RKO on the subscribe button. Peace. I'm out.